Welcome back. This is still Module 4, Lecture 3. The topic is Monitoring, Implementation, and Outcomes Components of Evaluation. Every evaluation will have these three components: a monitoring, an implementation, sometimes called process evaluation, and an outcomes evaluation in different balances depending on the particular context and the particular needs of the program. So let me explain in this brief lecture what each of those three means, and then we'll continue on the general topic of how to focus the evaluation.
Monitoring, implementation, and outcomes. Monitoring is the set of procedures to collect and report the number and types of service activities and beneficiaries for the purpose of accountability, such as to funders or managers. Usually, both the number of people and the number of services are counted in one way or another. I always recommend that for each part of the service, both be counted. Something about the number of persons and the number of, say, contacts or visits or meetings that they attended. And then other things might be about the program overall, that there are, say, 8 types of services if there are, and they're open 20 hours a week if that's one of them. Whatever are the kind of countables in in the contract, the outputs, so to speak, would be a part of this. This is part of performance monitoring. There are other monitoring activities outside of evaluation that includes contract monitoring, like contract compliance, compliance with state and local laws, fingerprinting laws, and the like. But we're only focusing on those aspects of a contract monitoring that has to do with the counts of services and service activities. Outcomes evaluation assesses the achievement of program outcomes, yeah, such as the overall effectiveness of the project in producing, say, favorable knowledge, attitude, behavior, health status, skills, intended behavior, whatever, of the intended population to be served. Typically, outcomes are derived from the immediate or intermediate outcome objectives, which you've learned to write in your previous program planning course. So all of this is a fancy way to say, okay, here is our intervention. This is Barbie. From a health education point of view, Barbie has a lot of problems. She is probably anorexic. She might be bulimic. Her feet are probably bad because she's been wearing high heels for the last, well, since the 1954 when she was invented. Um, she might have low self-esteem, which she masks by dressing in beautiful clothes with a lot of makeup. She might not be very physically active or eat the proper foods. She might not be paying attention to herself with the hope that the world will accept her through her Barbie-like qualities. So she goes into our nonprofit for kids service program. And if it's successful, she comes out with more of the characteristics of a troll. A troll still has a lot of fun in life. She might dye her hair outrageous colors, but she's got this warm, open attitude, ready for the world, standing on her own two flat feet, perhaps being in a karate or a swordsmanship class for the fun of it. Her eyes are wide open. Her belly is a little rounded, but not unhealthily so. Her esteem says, I'm healthy, I'm happy, and I'm ready to take on the world. So if a program is trying to help a bunch of Barbie-like youth become troll-like youth, the measurement of to what degree did that happen is an outcomes evaluation. However, an evaluation does not let us really see what happens inside the program or inside the box to let us know how that outcome might have happened. Implementation evaluation provides information to supplement that gained through monitoring and through outcomes. It can include basically a whole bunch of things, anything that is about in the box other than counting the service units, population. It can include, for example, an investigation and analysis of the reach of the intervention. Are they reaching the right kinds of people that they intended? Um, it might include an organizational plan or service utilization plan, which we will talk about in Module 7 and why that's important. It might document the fidelity of the program to a particular program model, if in fact it was based on a particular model. It often includes measures of client satisfaction with staff and services. Yes, client satisfaction is not an outcome. It is simply a part of a process intervention. Just because they like it doesn't mean it's good, but it does help you have a sense of whether people would continue to come. Depending on the context, there could be any number of other various questions. But what it basically does is open the black box of that intervention and look inside it to see what are the experiences of people who are going through the program. To try to get a bird's eye view of how they move through a program, which components of a program are well received or more intensive or less intensive? How do each components of the program possibly contribute to the overall purpose of the program? We'll come back to our nonprofit for kids in a box model throughout this course as an example of to illustrate various things. Okay, so this is a schematic. It's not exactly accurate, but it kind of puts together these three pieces of monitoring, implementation, and outcomes evaluations. Now, I say implementation evaluation in this course. Sometimes I slip and use the old-fashioned term called process evaluation, and many people use the term process evaluation. So both of them are words in the discourse. I don't use it because process evaluation sounds too much like process objectives. And in fact, a process evaluation is about the process of going through the program and what happens and what are the questions we want to know about that. Monitoring would let us know whether the process objectives have been achieved. So that's why I don't call it process evaluation, because it's too confusing to think, okay, process evaluation's not about process objectives. Monitoring about process objectives. So I'm going to use the word intervention, evaluation. Okay, so pretty much everybody, all programs have to have a way to monitor their program activities. And if they don't, well, that's the first place the evaluation had better start with helping them do that. For new and old programs, some component of an implementation evaluation is necessary. For new programs, it might simply be a client satisfaction and perception of usefulness kind of evaluation. But there might be more sophisticated questions too. Is it reaching the intended audience? What are the barriers to implementation? And a lot of other questions. An outcomes evaluation might include the immediate outcomes that happen during the intervention, like usually knowledge, attitude, intended behavior, and simple skills, things that they can get kind of right away. Intermediate outcomes are those which should happen over a longer term, months, say, perhaps by the end of the intervention, or perhaps even after the intervention has been completed, that these behaviors and more complex skills and a sense of efficacy that they are able to do these things exists. And then long term might include such things as individual hospitalization utilization for, say, children's asthma is reduced, the use of emergency services instead of a regular doctor is reduced, reduction in conditions or symptoms. Sometimes evaluations, especially on a modest to small budget, don't cover these long-term things because finding people in the long term is pricey. Beyond that, though, there are, say, impact evaluations, which isn't as much about the individual within the short period of time or even intermediate period of time. It would be the bigger issues if it's about individuals like morbidity, or it would be about the population, changes in population rates of these things, or about the community, changes in community systems and that kind of thing. So they're much beyond the individual, even in the next few years. And cost effectiveness assessment is about how much does it cost to achieve these outcomes for that population compared to some other kind of intervention with the same sorts of goals. We won't really be dwelling much on a cost effectiveness assessment, and I won't expect you to write evaluation plans for impact assessment. Um, but I'd like you to be aware that those exist, and for large budgeted evaluations, those, of course, are what is desired, is to know about that longer term impact. Okay, so this is what we've got so far is um, monitoring, implementation, and outcome components of evaluation. So go hug a troll and come back in a few minutes. Thanks.